Hey guys, it's Vlad from Essay Pro, and today we're doing our next tutorial on our How to Write an Essay series. So today we're going to talk about cause and effect. With every action comes a definite reaction. As life has taught us, one action will lead to another, and everything that has happened or is currently ongoing will pave the way for the future. So what exactly is cause and effect? If we take a look at the definition, a cause is a person or a thing that sparks some sort of action. On the other hand, an effect is the reaction that comes from that initial spark. The cause and effect essay is one that asks you to explain what reactions come from certain actions and why this occurs. Normally, you would be given a certain scenario in which an action occurred. From there, using things such as logic and analysis, reactions must be carefully crafted and explained. Some common cause and effect essay topics would be things like pollution's effect on society, the internet's influence on young and developing kids, drugs obviously impact on the human body, Uber's effect on taxi companies, that's a big thing, causes and effects of lying, compulsive lying, and causes and effects of natural disasters. So now we should talk about the outline. The cause and effect essay structure is commonly formulated in the 5-paragraph style, but it allows for variation. Depending on the topic of analysis and the depth of the content, cause and effect essays will, vary in length. However, the general format will still stay the same. Just like all essays have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion, cause and effect essay is no exception. So let's talk about our introduction. The main purpose of the introduction is to inform the reader of the topic of conversation, giving, necessary background if needed. The highlight of the introduction is to provide a relevant thesis statement, explaining the cause and its effect. So the first part of our intro is obviously the hook, the sentence that grabs the reader's attention. Since we are doing cause and effect, this could be some kind of foreshadowing or some kind of rhetorical question. Just make sure the reader isn't turned off after reading this initial sentence. Then we have the background information. In this case, background information is actually super important. Not only does it give more insight towards the cause, but sometimes can even help explain some of the effects without even knowing. This is especially true if we are talking about historical topics such as World War II or some kind of a natural disaster. Another key point is to make sure that this information follows a linear path and that it's applicable towards the main point, the thesis of the essay. And last but not least, we have our thesis statement, of course. So the thesis statement is highlighting the main point of the entire argument in one sentence. The goal of the essay is to prove the thesis statement, obviously, so make sure that it flows accordingly with what you plan on writing about in your main body paragraphs. Also, it's super important to base your essay around your main bodies rather than your thesis statement. The type of content that you provide depicts what kind of thesis statement you should have. Make sure they match. Our body paragraphs. All body paragraphs should always have some kind of, introductory sentence and a definite concluding sentence. However, the meat, the middle of it isn't absolute. So great news. This is the part of the essay where variety is in abundance. Unless we are specifically writing a 5-paragraph essay, there are a lot of options in terms of forming the essay. Assuming we are using the 5-paragraph style, there are 3 options to pick from. So option 1 is cause, effect, effect. Option 2 is cause, cause, effect. And option 3 is cause, effect, cause, effect, cause, effect. Obviously, these should be picked according to the subject of discussion. Sometimes there are situations where, one thing creates a mass chaos or many small parts create one big problem. Depending on the situation, it's important to pick the paragraph style accordingly. One of the 3. If we aren't using the 5-paragraph style, then you are as free as a bird when it comes to choosing your approach. The options come from as simple as one cause and one effect body to having multiple paragraphs that each contain a cause and effect. Being meticulous for these paragraphs is very important. For example, if you're using the cause, effect, effect style, the first paragraph should be specifically focused on the causes. Makes sense. It's also incredibly important to make sure that there is an evident correlation. This is super important between the initial cause and the dual effects, so that there is a link in between them. Once again, depending on the content you have to provide, the essay should be organized to suit your information efficiently and neatly. Pro tip from Essay Pro: create a cause and effect graphic organizer. It's not extra work, and not only does it make the process smoother, but getting that visual allows for the creation of even more ideas and more analysis. So that little bit of extra effort is definitely worth it. And last but not least, we have our concluding paragraph. So just like the introductory paragraph, this paragraph has 3 parts that practically follow the reverse order of the intro. The highlight of the conclusion is to create an impact upon the reader before fully concluding, emphasizing the strength of your argument. So the first thing we have to do is we have to restate our thesis, as per usual. Then now would be a good time to check if your thesis statement was actually proven by your body paragraphs. After confirming the following, the paraphrase sentence should assertively state that the thesis has been proved. Then we need to summarize our main argument. So you should use this section to simplify your argument into a couple concise sentences. Explain the general outline of the cause and effect from 1 to like 3 sentences. The strength of these sentences is incredibly important. The manner in which the main argument is summarized shows the reader the proficiency of the content. So make sure you take your time with these 3 sentences and write them in a very neat and particular order. Also, make sure these summaries come back to the core thesis statement, because remember, that's what we're really focusing on. And last but not least, we have our overall concluding statement. So just like your hook gave a thrilling intro to your essay, you must provide a meaningful outro. Obviously, this argument was developed for a specific purpose, whether an essay for college or like a presentation at work. So just like in a court case, it's necessary to provide the importance of your argument. In other words, explain why your argument should be taken seriously and present the consequences if they are to be ignored. You wrote this essay for a purpose, not just to get a good grade. At least I hope so. Anyway, guys, that's the general way of how to write a cause and effect essay. If you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment. If you guys didn't like some parts, please leave it in the comments. We're trying to improve our channel constantly. Anyway, guys, thanks. I'm out. See ya.